Good evening. It is 6 o'clock, but I will wait a few more minutes to see if anyone else is going to join the Zoom. My name is Jane Ellen Lennon. I am the South Hunterdon Regional School District Director of Curriculum Assessment and Instruction, and this is our presentation for families this evening on the New Jersey Student Learning Assessments. So we'll give everyone a minute or two. I know it's a busy season. For those of you coming in, I'm just going to wait another minute or so. This will be recorded as you got the message when you logged on, but I do want to just wait. I'll probably wait another 3 minutes. I want to be respectful of your time, but also want to go ahead and get started. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. As I said, this will be recorded and we'll upload it to the South Hunterdon Regional School District, our website tomorrow. And I want to go ahead and start by saying that if anyone has any questions, follow-up questions, I am happy to schedule a phone call, a Zoom meeting, or an in-person meeting, or certainly feel free to email me. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I did introduce myself earlier, but again, I'm Jane Ellen Lennon, the Director of Curriculum Assessment and Instruction. So I'm just going to go over a little bit of the agenda and what we're going to talk about. I'm hoping the presentation goes no longer, obviously, than an hour. But with that overview of the NJSLA testing, the dates for the 3 schools, and a little bit about the background and how English language arts and literacy are developed and set up, some overview of mathematics and the shifts that we've seen over the past couple of years, as well with science. And then what we're doing as a district for planning, preparation, and practice. And then I have some resources to share with families that want to explore further. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and just talk a little bit about what NJSLA is and what it is not. Just so you all know, it is aligned to standards. We do not use it as a comparison tool, and it is used heavily with curricular decisions. So all of the ELA programming decisions we made this year were all based on NJSLA standards. And when I say that, it's New Jersey Student Learning, S for standards and A for assessment. I want you to know that it is not considered for placement. I look at the NJSLA assessment as a snapshot in time. It does assess students and with skills, concepts, and strategies that they've learned over the course of the year. But it is, again, just week in May, and so we do not use it for placement. And it is not the only measure we use or the only value we measure. We use multiple measures so that we have consistent understanding of what a student's achievement and progress is. And it is not a way of defining student abilities or talents. Here are the testing dates, and I will send out an email. I'll send out an email with this presentation tomorrow as well. And I'll make sure that they are added to the school's websites or the school calendars. I got an email from a parent today that said that they were not listed. So just so you know, I will add them. And you will see that we try to schedule the middle school, high school, and the elementary schools at different times, both with the ELA and math, as well as with the science. That's so that we can have enough support with our techs, as well as making sure our devices are working. And if there's ever needs to be any changes, it's easier to troubleshoot 2 elementary schools and 1 middle or high school. The time for the units, and I apologize for this being in the way. Here are the times for each of the ELA units. There will be 2 days for ELA or English Language Arts and Literacy testing, and we administer 1 unit a day, and each one in 3rd grade is 75 minutes. That means the students have a total amount of time of 75 minutes to take the unit per day, and that ends up being 2 hours and 30 minutes for our 3rd graders. And then in grades 4 to 9, we do still keep the same practice with 1 unit per day, and those are 90-minute units, meaning they sit and they take the test for 90 minutes with a total of 3 hours. Just so you know, we don't ever know exactly how many questions are on each one of the units, but I will tell you from my past experience, most of the time, they are not a lot. At 1 year, there was only 12 questions in a unit for ELA in grade 3. Sometimes there's only 20 questions in 1 unit. Again, that's information that the state doesn't share, but it is information that we access when we are looking at it and administering it. So please know that your students are not sitting and taking a test for 75 minutes with 100 to 125 problems. I'll show you what sample problems look like so you can see that they do take time and they are in depth. For the math units, they are a little shorter. We have 3 days for math. And again, 1 unit per day, and there's 60 minutes, and grades 3 to 6. And for Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, they're each 90 minutes. So, but it is a total testing time of 3 hours. I'll go into a little bit more about the math and what it looks like for our students past 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. For our science units, and again, science is only taken by our 5th graders, our 8th graders, and our 11th graders. And there are 4 total units, but they are shorter at grades 5 and 8 at 45 minutes of test. The content covered in the ELA units, this is a little bit where it shifts a little bit from what we have seen on previous assessments given by the state. It does measure grade level skills, knowledge, and concepts that align to the standards. That's why it's so important for us to choose curricular programs that are also aligned to standards. So really our students, we don't need to prep them for the tests because all of the instruction that we have been delivering throughout the course of the year is standards-based. So when they go to take the tests in May, they are also standards-based. So it should all be familiar and it's not a disconnect. This is something different after the Common Core, which was about 2018. So this is where we started to see this. When I share this presentation, there is a link to the New Jersey Department of Education website, and you can actually look at what the standards are by content level, by content area, as well as by grade level. So it gives you some idea of what your students are being asked to do. The biggest shift is analyzing and reading passages for both fiction and nonfiction texts, as well as watching videos, multimedia sources. So I will show you some samples of that. But as I shared at the ELA programming, that is where our Wit and Wisdom curriculum is going to provide our students with those resources. And it's a balance. It's really a 50-50 shift. And that's what the standards say, so that our students read authentic fiction as well as nonfiction. And all of the passages on the NJSLA are from authentic fiction, meaning they're taken from excerpts. Could be a poem from Maya Angelou. It could be a article from a published piece. There's a variety of different sources, and it's always cited. So that's why it's important to expose our students to authentic sources and authentic texts as they're reading their materials in their classrooms. The types of questions for ELA, and this is where it gets a little nitty-gritty. And I will share with you that there is a lot of information in these slides, but I thought it was important for families to know exactly what their students are being asked to do. And then you can see the alignment from what they're being asked to do in their classrooms. So these are some words that categorize the types of questions. So evidence-based selected response just means that they're going to read a question and then they have to provide evidence from the text. Technology-enhanced constructed response. So this is where the technology piece plays a part. And so I'll show you some samples of what it looks like to multi-select text or highlight or reorder. They actually, students actually drag and drop. And then the last one is the prose constructed response, where they actually have to write the response to the text in text boxes. Again, we provide a lot of opportunity for our students to do this. Our Reveal Math program, whenever students are online and they're working in, obviously I'm talking about ELA now, but with Reveal, all of these technology enhanced features are also things that many of the publishers built into their online programs. So here's a sample question for grade 3. And you will see that it is The Winter's Tale is the article. And for the 3rd grader, they have to look at part A and understand what the word designed means. So it's using context clues. And then you can see, this is just a screenshot, but the student would be able to scroll down and then read part B. This is actually a link to the digital library for NJSLA, so you'll be able to see what these actually look like. Here is grade 6. And again, I just took some sample questions so you could see what the students have to do and how they manipulate the text. Again, these are technology enhanced. So you can see that students have to, it's almost like in the old days of Mad Libs, where you had to choose the word. But right now, again, this is just a screenshot, and the student would click on the drop-down arrow and choose the words that best complete the sentence. And in this article, they're going to research fossils. So they'll read 2 different articles, and this is the first one. And then the second one they would view a video on croc fossil found, and then they would review those sources. So there's a lot of comparing and contrasting between sources, and that's a standard that's in all the grade levels. So students start comparing and contrasting texts, whether it's 2 different poems or a article or a poem and a video very early on in our curriculum. For grade 5, here again, they're going to watch a video on the Peace Corps, and then they're going to read the paragraph, the article. And you can see it says select 1 paragraph from the article. And again, they would use the scroll bar to go down. And it was similar to Corey's opinion in the video. So again, as I said, there may only be 20 questions in the entire unit that they have 75 or 45 or 90 minutes to complete, but they are involved in the sense that they have to read something, they might have to watch a video, and then they have to construct a response. And grade 8, here is reading nonfiction and analyzing vocabulary. And you will see here that they have to look at these vocabulary words and read then the plate tectonics article about moving and shaking. Again, this is a nonfiction text. And then part B would be 2 additional phrases, and they do note where they are. So again, as I said, I will have links so you could actually check these out online if you're interested in exploring more. But you will notice that the level of rigor and what students are asked to do is pretty tough. And so this is why when we are developing our program of studies, we want to make sure that students have the access and the abilities to sit down and grapple with this text. We don't want this to be something new, and we don't want this to be something that is really hard and they just click through. So that's why we spend a lot of time not only planning, preparing, and practicing for the test, but also this is what our curriculum should look like as students are moving through the grade level. Types of math questions, I'll shift a little bit. These are pretty much the same. The selected response for math questions, there's multiple choice and then fill in the blank. And again, they're using the same technology enhanced for constructed responses as well as written. So this is a shift in our math curriculum and programming with the standards that have come out recently. So very different than 10 years ago when students were working on problems that may be in a student workbook or from a textbook. Students are now writing about their math. And so this is why it's very important to develop those writing skills in English language arts so that they can transfer them to math. And that's where we give teachers time to talk amongst their grade level partners or their content area team members so that the English teachers or the language arts teachers are communicating with the math teachers about what a constructed response and what is expected of a 5th grader, an 8th grader, a 3rd grader. So I just wanted to put in here, there's a lot of information on the slide. I'm not going to read through it, but just so you know, these are what the NJSLA, so the New Jersey State Learning Standards, expect. These are the required fluencies. So do we expose our students to more than these fluencies? Absolutely. But I wanted you to be able to see what are the expectations for students at each one of the grade levels. Obviously, 7th and 8th is a little tricky and there's a lot of context that goes into that, but just knowing what the foundations are for our kindergartners, our 1st and 2nd graders, prior to them coming to 3rd grade for their 1st year of testing. The math questions, again, content, reasoning, and modeling. So mathematical reasoning would be something that's relatively new with with standards in New Jersey. Most of our math instruction many years ago, prior to COVID, was content-based. So again, multiple pages that a student is answering questions about math, solving mathematical problems. Well, now we're shifting that to being able to reason about math, why it works this way, and they need to model. So there's modeling applications, and that's where it's really hard for students who don't have enough practice. So oftentimes this is where we build modeling into our math lessons. So students work with cubes, or they may work with shapes, or they may be working with graphing calculators so that they can model and express their understanding of a mathematical concept clearly for the test, as well as to be successful to achieve the standards. Here's some sample questions for grade 3. You can see that students are required to show their work in the space. And this is from measurement and data, which is one of the areas that math is assessed. Here's a grade 5 geometry. So you can see again, part A and part B, they're looking at clues, and then they have to identify, they have to answer the question about Brian, any hiding clues, and again, they're manipulating and reading graphs, or excuse me, coordinates. I wanted to show you what a grade 6 explanation sample is. So again, students have to type their answer or enter their answer based on that number line in both part A and part B. Our students are used to using these symbols when they do online assessments and when they work with the Reveal program in K-8. And so we do, our students in grades 3 through 8 do take their Reveal assessments, the Reveal math assessments online for a number of reasons. One is so that they can have the practice using the technology enhanced tools. And also it does allow teachers to have it all stored in the grade book, and we can run reports. It also grades the problems. Teachers have to go in and view and grade a constructed response. But in terms of entering different equations and mathematical symbols and relations, that is all done for them. Here's a sample from high school. Again, they're using data, and they have to evaluate the chart and then answer the questions. Each one of these blue arrows is a drop down so that the students have access to these different tools. And again, they do have practice with this throughout the year, and that's why we use many of the online programs. And we've shifted away from workbooks and paper and pencil to using this type of technology enhanced program. I'm going to shift a little bit to science. I know there's been a lot of questions about our science and certainly our science scores. And this will give you the opportunity to understand where those shifts came from. And so just so you know, and you can refer to the acronym, it's the New Jersey Student Learning Standards -S, which means science. And here's where we see the shift with our standards and what students are being asked to do in our science programs curriculum. Draw an understanding on science and engineering practices, understanding disciplinary core ideas and cross-cutting concepts. That may not mean anything to you, but it is how the next generation science standards are developed. And here, it is a shift, and there is a document I will share that's linked in this document, which is a parent's guide to the NJSLA science standards. And so you can see they do a little bit of explanation on what this shift is from understanding and applying concepts as opposed to memorizing facts. Whenever you see 3D nature, when it's talking to science, they're talking about the disciplinary core ideas, concepts, and the science and engineering practices. And all of the technology enhanced tools, the computer-based tools, are the same as for ELA and math. So students don't need to learn another set of tools. And again, here's a little bit more information about the science assessments, the science and engineering practices. This is what the content is based on. It's based on investigating, sense making, and critiquing. I'll show you some samples, and you can dive into that a little bit more if you're interested in that. The science domains haven't changed in the sense of life science, physical science, and earth science. Many of you may be familiar with that. And just so you know, in grades 5, 8, and 11, when they take the NJSLA science assessment, it is content that's cumulative for those grade bands. So the 5th grade is being assessed on content from previous years, the 8th grade from 6, 7, 8, and the 11th grade from 9, 10, 11. But with our curriculum and the way that we've chosen programs, that is all embedded in our programs. So anything that's on the NJSLA, any of these assessments, we look at it to help us make those curricular decisions, as I said on slide 1, because it's based on the standards. And so if our curriculum and our students are meeting expectations for standards in our classrooms every day, then we have no question that they can be successful on the state assessments. The types of science questions, again, they're multiple choice. They can select from 4 possible answer choices. Sometimes there's 2 or more answers. That's new for students. And that's something we work with our 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders on to make sure that they understand that. And that does happen in our Reveal Math assessments as well. Some of the technology enhanced, again, graphing, ordering, drop down, and there is open-ended and constructed response. So you'll see the theme that writing plays a part across the content areas. Here's a sample question. This is grade 5, where there are 2 of the 5 statements are correct. So again, there's a scroll bar, and this is just a screenshot. But what students would do is they would read the text, they would look at the map, and then they would read the question, and then they would select 2 of the statements that are correct. I just wanted to share a constructed response. So based on the investigation, students again would read the question, they'd review the investigation, and then they would predict the result of the weight, and they would enter that here. And then we could scroll down, there's a second investigation, and students would have to predict the results of this weight going down that incline. And they would construct their written response here, type it into the box, and then make sure that they support their evidence from the data. So the common theme across both ELA, math, and science is writing with supporting evidence from the text, or in this case, from a diagram or the data that's given. Here's a grade 8, and this I wanted to share with you because, again, the student would be they click and they drag the correct one of these boxes to complete the sentence, the paragraph in this case. So again, students are working with this all the time. There are online components of our Inspire Science program. So the more practice that they have, and as I said earlier, the technology enhancements, the enhanced tools are the same as ELA and math. So if they were doing dragging and dropping, they may have done that in ELA and certainly in math as well. Here's a grade 8 question. Again, they actually have to read and look at this text and map, and then there are 2 other figures. So we're looking again at comparing things and answering in this box. And as you see, I apologize. Probably could have done this better. They would explain their answer. They have to identify what information is needed to determine, and then explain how it was interpreted. This is a question from grade 11. Obviously, this is much more advanced, but there is another figure that the students would click on. They would analyze this data, and then they would drag and drop the correct boxes over to this graphic. I just wanted to share with you the performance ratings. This is what you would see. Those of you that have seen performance ratings before and received your students' levels right now, certainly we expect all of our students to be in level 4 and level 5. And students that perform at level 4 and 5 have demonstrated a readiness for the next grade level course and ultimately on track for college and careers. That is not to say that students who receive level 1, 2, or 3 are not ready for the next grade level. That just means we need to look at identifying some interventions in place and how can we support them. A lot of the work that we're doing to reconfigure the schools is a step in that direction. It's really putting things into place so that teachers can meet together on grade level and discuss the trends they're seeing with the student data. Next year, we did a little bit this spring, but we're moving in the direction of really data-driven instruction and using that data from all of our ELA programs, our math programs, our science programs, to really let us know exactly where students are and what they need. And so I just wanted you to have an understanding of what it is that we expect. But also know that if your students come home or you see on their score reports that it's a level 2 or a level 3, that does not mean they are not ready for the next grade. That just means we need to do some tightening up of our curricular programs. And that is our plan moving forward for next year. So I know that this was probably the goal of tonight's meeting for many of you. You've been curious about what we have been doing to plan, prepare, and practice. I look at the planning as how we are introducing, and that started in January and February with our teachers. So that's when we started to introduce IXL and NJSLA as 2 different programs or applications we're using to support students and achievement outside of our curriculum programs. So we started with administering diagnostic assessments with IXL, and that was in grades K to 8. And then based on that, we also started to look at our student data and Reveal Math. So we started to track our unit assessments, looking and trying to see what we can do to support students. Why are they not understanding this concept of adding fractions? And that's all part of our curriculum work in Reveal Math. And then as we moved to February and March, we really started to hone in on how we can support teachers and students. And so our instructional coaches, Ms. Stewart and Mrs. Campbell, went into all of the grade 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 classes in either an ELA or a math class, and modeled a lesson. How can we use IXL? How can we use Reveal? What are some of the things that we can be doing in our classrooms? How do we get students on computers? And how do we also share with them the performance tasks and helping teachers plan that out in their lessons? We started to begin with setting weekly IXL goals. That was when I communicated home some of the information about IXL so that you as family members and parents can support us and our students. And then we started to track the IXL data. So we look at the weekly goals, we look at student achievement, and we say, how can we make sure our students are meeting these goals? And because IXL is very closely aligned to NJSLA, and it was an additional practice for our students to not only fill some skill gaps, and that's what we found out from the diagnostic, but then also support lessons and concepts and skills they're working on in their math classes. And then we started to meet in teams after school, and we started to look at data and collaborate as grade levels. What are you seeing? This is what I'm seeing. How are your students doing with this concept? How are your students doing with that? And then how can we support each other? So those were that's been the bulk of what February and March has looked like. When we returned from spring break, it was really, let's put this into practice. And this is where we're using the technology enhanced tools and making sure our students are comfortable with it. We've been using it all year, but spending some extra time with those tools to making sure that they can manipulate the tools with success. We started to set weekly NJSLA goals for those in grades 3 through 8. And I met with teachers to make sure they had access NJSLA is a program that is all based on nonfiction articles, and students can read articles and then take a quiz. And again, very closely aligned with NJSLA practice. So these were really giving students the opportunity to both practice in ELA and math. We also started to implement NJSLA practice tasks. So building that into a teacher's schedule where we don't want it to replace the curriculum that's in place, math or ELA. So some teachers have an extra period that's called literacy centers. And so this was a great opportunity for them to do that. We also looked at combining and looking at our social studies curriculum and making sure that in our science curriculum, teachers were getting the support they needed. And that is really where we are in terms of our countdown. There are 12 instructional days left for elementary and 17 for middle high. This was just a quote. I will let you read it on your own, but it really was from teachers who are using NJSLA, and it is a great opportunity instead of doing a workbook or something else that is not as engaging. NJSLA articles like today, or yesterday, there was something about Earth Day and Poetry Month. It was really gives students the opportunity to read nonfiction. They're glossy texts. They're very engaging. This was some feedback about IXL that teachers shared with us. And it is a wonderful way to both have a diagnostic test that shows exactly what that student needs to work on. Maybe they didn't clearly secure their skills with subtraction, but we've already moved on to division. So how can students close some of those gaps with practice? And IXL allows us to do that. And here are some resources. Oops, sorry. And again, this is the digital library that you can search by grade and content. You can actually see the tests that New Jersey Department of Education has released. New Meridian is another resource. Again, you can go in and see released items and practice tests. Just so you know, when we started the IXL weekly goals, we started to hand out certificates and stickers to students. And then when we returned from spring break, we actually put into place the IXL, they're called skill plans. And it's a 20-day plan of what teachers can use with students for practice for the NJSLA. Reveal Math, there's a sample of the spiral review, which allows students to go online and practice skills that have already been taught, but again, close some gaps. And then the others are task expectations. This is what we expect our students, and a practice test sample so that you can see, again, based on the samples that I gave, and just a quick click here or there. So I also wanted to share, in addition to the practice that we're doing and giving students the academic practice tools, resources, we did start in February, or excuse me, in March, a campaign for student engagement and a way to approach the test from a perspective that students can show what they know, make South Hunterdon really proud of us and all that we know. So every Wednesday, our teachers wear a blue South SHRSD Together t-shirt to show the unity and that we're all in this together. At South Middle High School, right before spring break, we had a pep rally. And again, what that was to put the students' radar that we value you, we respect you, we know you can do this. Yes, it does count. Whether it counts for our performance scores, it counts for our community, it counts for you and teachers, because we really want you to show us all of the academic success and the knowledge you've gained. It is we want to celebrate their success. So that's where we started those certificates and class goals. The week before NJSLA, we'll have spirit weeks in both the elementary and the high school. These were just some samples of different spirit days. And then again, knowing that we value the whole child and supporting students social and emotionally. After testing, each day we will have different activities that will not, students will not be on technology. It'll be screen free after testing, and there'll be all different types of activities. Really get moving away from pencil paper and just giving students those brain breaks and that way to celebrate, other things than the testing. And then some of the incentives were extra recess, bagel breakfast, motivational messages each morning, and some snacks. So in addition to the academic piece, we want to make sure we want to engage students so that they can, they really show us what they know, and they're not just clicking through a test because they don't know how to do this, or it's too hard, or they haven't had the right preparation. So things parents can do, be punctual, just make sure that students are arriving on time, publishing those dates. I know dentist appointments are really tricky. So sometimes those are unavoidable, but please know that whenever possible, make sure that your children are getting to school, get healthy sleep habits, good breakfast, all of those things that we know help the brain function at its very best. And then or that we're shifting away from test anxiety. Obviously, students are anxious and worried about the test, but we really feel like if we communicate a positive message and really cheer them on and know and instill that confidence within them, they can really do this. So our kids will follow your lead as well. So we hope you will partner with us on that positivity. And just other things families can do. Encourage students to do their best. They can do their best. I have all faith and confidence that our students in South Hunterdon can achieve great things. And, it may be something that is an incentive in your family. It may not. And then just be positive. And oh, it was hard, it was this, it was that. Just remind your students that they can do it. And there's nothing new. All of this information is what they've been practicing all year. And then moving forward for next year, we have some real strong things in place to help our students so that we do know and we can confidently say that they are completely prepared for the testing. So that's all I have. I'm going to stop my share. And I know there's only a few of you online. If there's any questions that you would like to unmute and ask me now, or if, as I said earlier, if you want to just email me follow-up questions. And as I said, I'm happy to meet with you, have a Zoom, trade emails, whatever it may be. Okay. If there aren't any questions, that was a lot of talking. It was a lot of information, as I said. Oh, thank you. It does take, for those of you on, knows back to the COVID days, it takes a little bit to render the recording. So as soon as it's rendered, I will post it to our YouTube channel and it will be available. And at this point in time, I will go ahead and tomorrow when it's posted, I will send that information out and I will also send these slides out. I just like to be as transparent as possible. I know that I am here to support the community. And since I started on October 2nd, I know this is very important for our community. And I know that our students and teachers, we can do this. And we just need to have the right tools and resources. And we've done that this year, but we do need to do better. And that's really our plan next year, K-8. And so I'm really excited about the things we have in place. Excellent. All right. Well, if there are no further questions, I'll end the recording. And any questions you have, I want to make sure that the community knows the things that we're doing. And we really, really are putting our best foot forward and South Hunterdon together. Take care.
Thank you.